We've been talking about them already, and maybe I should start telling a little story to introduce the next guest. I think it was about 12 years ago, and I'm going back in time, and I was going to university in Marburg, which is, I don't know if any of you knows that place, it's somewhere in Germany. And I was organizing little parties there, and I was inviting Alex Bark from Jazzanova, and Jazzanova was my biggest inspiration back then already, and still is. We were DJing together, and 3 weeks later he gave me that call and asked me if I want to DJ at that night in Berlin. And you can imagine me being a little student in Marburg, being asked if I want to play at the WMF in Berlin, which was the best club in town back then. You can imagine what my heartbeat was like back then when I got invited to play there. And all of a sudden, like a week later, I was sitting at the table in a restaurant with, the whole crew. And that was a very, very special moment to me. And ever since, I was really inspired by their music, and I still am. And I'm very happy to have them here. The production duo of Jazzanova, Axel and Stefan. Welcome. You just stay here. Maybe you can move over so that Axel can... All right. So you're getting the headset, yep. So actually we're going to do this, it's going to get a little bit more technical, because I heard some feedback that some people were more interested in some technical stuff. Axel is a specialist, and Stefan as well, in recording. They've been recording a lot of stuff that we will talk about as well. And mixdown. After that, as Lupo is a specialist in mastering, we'll just continue down the road so that all of you know how to do a proper recording, a proper mixdown, and how to get your tunes mastered right, because I guess you need a specialist for that. Is your microphone working?
I don't know, is it working? Yeah. Hey, hello everybody.
So welcome.
Hey.
You've been in the music business for about 20 years, isn't that right?
It's right, yeah.
I know it's boring to always ask the same question, but how did this start back then?
I mean, Stefan and I grew up in the same area of Berlin, Köpenick. And you know, we went to school together, and just started to experiment with tapes and recording stuff, and did our own Hörspiele. I don't know the word for it. Radio plays, and it developed. I got my first Atari computer, and we would sample bits, and this is how it started. And then one big thing was when the wall came down. Sure. We had the ability to buy our first sampler and drum machine, and then it really took off, right? Then.
But you were doing hip hop back then, right?
We were totally, at this time it was hip hop, it was also early house music that we tried to do, piano house. That was fun, yeah.
It was basically influenced by the radio culture in Berlin. We had favorite shows by Monika Dieter and by André Langfeld, of course, as well.
André Langfeld, okay. Anybody remember André Langfeld or Monika Dieter? Yeah. All right.
So, and also Barry Graves. So there was a mixture of. They played American radio shows, English radio shows, their own stuff, a lot of hip hop, a lot of house music, and that was definitely the area where we came from, Code Cut and all that stuff. Yeah.
And that was a time when you got an Atari.
Yeah.
And you still have that, right?
That's a different Atari, the better one, the 1 megabyte one. We started with the, what was it, 128.
I think 800 XE was it called 800.
So there were some drum programs, micro rhythm, and also started some programming, some stuff on C64 with a micro tracker, or what was it called? And you could use 3 synthesizer voices and some sample voices and program in a were pretty raw.
There was a Commodore, right?
Commodore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what do you use today to sequence your music with?
Yeah, we have a better Atari now, the the one megabyte one. Yeah, but it actually doesn't play a really important role. I mean, I use it for MIDI sequencing. There's nothing else in the computer. It's just just for programming and triggering sounds from the samplers or keyboards that it's connected with. So the Atari even triggers a bigger computer that has where the samplers are in. So yeah.
And I mean, now in the last 15 years, you probably spent more time with each other than with your girlfriends, I guess, in the studio.
In the studio, yeah. Girlfriends are already in the studio.
Yeah, they're not in the studio. Okay, that's right. But how did this whole Jazzanova thing? I think from the outside, it's always difficult to see what does Jazzanova stand for. Maybe you can just say 2 or 3 sentences about how you would explain Jazzanova to your school teacher.
Okay, Jazzanova is a collective of people who love music, just love music, love making music, love DJing, presenting music to other people, love having a radio show. Stefan and I are people who are, until 2009, we were hidden in the studio. We were programming, recording, producing all the Jazzanova stuff, and the DJs were traveling.
So you were 2 producers or 3 producers back then?
At this time we were 3 producers, Roscoe and Stefan and I. Now we're only 2 producers and
3 DJs.
And 3 DJs still, yeah.
But now you turned into a live band all of a sudden.
That thing was crazy.
How
because
did that
the DJs always, they came back from touring worldwide really, and they said, yeah, it was great, and this tune worked well, and this tune worked also well. But we have to do something on it. But people are asking why we only play records and not coming with a live band. And we thought, with a live band, I mean, the music we did at this time was pretty much sample based. We didn't have an idea how to present this on stage. We never thought about it really. And with the last album we did, Of All the Things, we did it in 2008, we really developed a style from not only using samples, but more recording instruments, put a focus more on the composition side. And that was the right time when we had the album finished, that we thought, now we could go on stage, invite musicians, and bring this whole thing to the stage.
And get part of that fame from traveling and meeting other people as well.
See the reactions.
Does it work?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay.
It's great. It's really great. Yeah, we did over 100 shows now, and when we started, we thought, okay, let's do like 10 shows, and then we go back to the studio and work. But it's really nice playing music. It's a different thing than being in the studio. Being on stage, it's always different how the crowd reacts. The arrangements change. You have to be flexible. It's cool. It's very cool.
But back then you weren't hardly ever using live instrumentation. I just remember Another New Day was one of the tunes where I think some of you told me that you got a phone call and somebody asked, who's that drummer? He's incredible. And then you just said, well, I programmed everything. There was no drummer.
Yeah. That's maybe one of the more spectacular drum programmings, because I wanted to bring in all the drummers I like, interpret that style of drumming on the computer. So I had a funk drum set from the 70s, chopped up to snare drums, hi-hats, bass drums, everything separately, and then I just reprogrammed the way I wanted it. It sounded like it's live, but it's just programmed, and a lot of people were asking about if there's a drummer playing.
How many samples were in that?
I don't know, if you just count the single snare drums, maybe 30, 40 snare drum samples and maybe 20 hi-hat samples and a handful of bass drum. If I had the luck to find a single tom sample, I'm also using this. But since the last 3-4 years, we're recording the samples ourselves, so I'm not only depending on what I find on vinyl.
Mm-hmm.
We're really into creating a good sound in the studio, and really want like live sounding drum samples that we made ourselves, because I know there are a lot of programs that make live like drum sounds, but we really want to have the full control of everything and how.
So
it
you record
sounds.
everything yourself. You don't really use any of those samples.
No, no.
Is that a philosophy?
Yeah, we want to create our own sounds, you know.
Okay.
So we would rent drum sets, mic them up, record every single, like how many 1,000 snare sounds, and then the cymbals, and then different sticks, and also different mic positions, and yeah. So we have the total control of the sound. Yeah.
Okay. So which program are you working with when you record music?
It's Pro Tools.
Pro Tools.
Okay. Yeah. I'm on Pro Tools since a long time.
Did it take you a lot of other programs to then finally be there, or was that a program that you started out with?
Into Pro Tools, really.
Okay.
From the tape machine to Pro Tools.
From the tape machine. Okay.
Yeah, we started to make music with tape machines.
And back to the tape machine. Are you still using that?
Yes, yes. Why we're using tape machines?
Yeah.
For sound, really.
Okay. What does it do?
Some special twizzle.
Special twizzle. What's the magic about tape machines?
It just has that sound, you know. You can drive them hard, and then it starts to distort, and this distortion is pleasing to our ear. It's harmonic distortion that happens, and also a little bit of compression. And this sounds technical. We used to say it sounds fat.
It sounds fat.
It just makes it, yeah. And you can also play with the tape speed. If you record on slower tape speed, then you get more bass and less high. Listen to some stuff before.
Sure.
Is there something?
Somewhere.
So this is the drum set I'm going to show you now. So this is one example of our reggae drum set we did. It looks. So we borrowed real cheap drums from a friend of us and mic'd them up in a very not usual way, I guess.
So why not usual?
I don't know. We covered everything with blankets, and we would put the snare drum mic. I think I would usually, if you see this is the snare, the Hughes 67. I would usually put it much closer to the snare, but for this kind of drums it was just perfect.
How long did it take you to figure that out? I mean, how many positions did you listen to?
I always go into the recording room with headphones. Yeah. And just find the sweet spot.
Okay.
And sometimes you have to change the mic, sometimes you have to change the snare, the tuning of the snare, but
would you rate that that's one of the key elements, where to put the microphone to record a snare, and not what the quality of the microphone or the quality of the drums?
It's the drums and the drummer who's going to play it, and then the position, sure, and the microphone, and then the mic preamp, and maybe the compressor if you use it, whatever. But it's all big part of the sound. And yeah, this is a typical mic setup. Not some U67s on as overheads, sub kick. Everyone knows that. Here, this is a Yamaha speaker used as a microphone.
Okay.
It's really for the subby stuff.
So you use a speaker as a microphone.
It's a big speaker.
Okay.
It only picks up the low frequencies, like 60, 30 hertz. And then we would mix the drum sets to 2 tracks. And let's mix the bass drum, and we would have all the overhead mics on, the tom mics, so everything rings with the when you kick the bass drum, the whole set reacts to it. And we not only use the bass drum mic, but the whole set. Mix it down to 2 tracks, give it to Stefan, and he programs the
Atari.
programs the beat on the Atari then, and chops it up. It takes really a long time, man.
How long does it take you for a drum set to be edited and saved? And
the job is long.
Yeah, it's actually some weeks, because I'm not only doing that. I'm doing other stuff as well, but I'm taking some hours in the evening to cut the stuff. You also have to order the samples by volume, so that you have the loudest first and the softest hits last. And then it's really hard to find especially hi-hat, and especially hi-hat is difficult to. The open hi-hat sounds, the half opened, if it's just a short, longer. So actually, that's why we record them ourselves, because I don't know if every program gives you that opportunities, but I know which samples I need for programming. Yeah, it's a long way, but once you have it, you can use it like in 1,000 different surroundings, because the progress that follows afterwards, that we were going to talk about, makes the drum set sound so different from the samples we made, that there are, like, I don't know, endless of possibilities to use that drum set.
How many drum sounds do you have in your library by now?
It's maybe 20, 30,000, but it's yeah, how to say, 4 or 5 drum sets with different rides and crashs and snare drums and different rim. It sounds much, but sometimes I have a feeling it's not enough. I need more samples, and yeah.
How is it then working with a drummer in a band? Is it that you always go to him, no, you have to play different, you have to play it this way? No, it was meant another way.
I think it's interesting, because most of the drummers heard our stuff before. They know about it, and I know a lot of drummers who think it's crazy what we make with the programming, and I have the feeling they are a little shy about if they really meet our expectations. But I think that's a different story. If once we program drums, we have the full control, and we really want to have it like they are. But if we play with live in the studio, like we did for the Funkhaus studio sessions or on stage, it's different. I cannot expect that he plays every fill like I want to have it, and like every little groove thing 100%ly. That's.
But you have the feeling that you're still using the Atari, because that's an instrument that you still know best, and it's not about having the latest piece of equipment, but to know your equipment.
Honestly, there's no real magic about the Atari. It's just really for the sequencing, and I'm really used to it. I'm just fast on that one. I could change to another sequencer possibility, but yeah, it works, and
no need for it.
No need for it.
We're really fast on that.
Yeah.
Okay. Once the samples are chopped, it's magic.
Magic.
Really. And it's not like some people program the drums, they play it. Stefan is like seeing those bars on the computer, and it grooves. It's cool. Really appreciate it.
Nice.
Yeah, it's cool.
So what comes next?
Yeah, coming back to tape machines. Maybe what we sometimes do is program the drums in a different speed than we used to, than we wanted to have the song later. So we would program them faster, record them to tape, and slow them down to the real tempo we wanted to use. This is a magic thing. It doesn't really sound like when you pitch them down in the computer, but the tape, when you slow the tape down, it's really fat. It's really nice. So we record them.
But why can't you just record them in the computer and then slow it down? Because you don't have that effect, right?
It sounds different. Because
it would be so much easier, wouldn't it?
It's much easier.
Much cheaper.
Much cheaper.
How much does a tape
probably
machine
no
cost?
one will hear the difference.
But can I also do that with my little Sony tape player at home?
Yeah.
Okay.
Whatever you have, use it. That's the main thing.
All right.
But yeah, when you push them hard to tape, you have the distortion, and you slow everything down. Also the distortion, the transients change. That's cool. That's cool. It's really cool. We do this a lot with tambourines also.
Tambourines?
We play them, yeah, and they're thin sounding and don't have enough body. But if we need body, we slow them down on the tape. It's fun.
So that's the tape machine.
Yeah, that's one. The tape machine we use because it has multi-channels, so it has 24 channels, and it has this thing called vari-speed.
Mm-hmm.
Can pitch it real correct, and also play with. When we record instruments, we also pitch them down by a certain amount of notes, also. Play guitar slower and everything. It's cool. It's fantasy sounds. That's the board. That's also another tape machine. It's a tube tape machine from way back. We use this thing as when we really want to distort stuff, send stuff to it, and I can play some sounds also.
Question about tape machines. Looking at the second-hand market or anywhere, what's usable and what isn't? Because you can, if you want to experiment with that, and get into it.
You can get a second-hand market, of course. You can also, what's the cheapest way is to get a 2-track quarter-inch machine, like a Revox, which is a part brand of Studer, and you can get it like for 300 Lupo. Yeah, on the shape, yeah. And we use this a lot. We use this tape machine to record our masters, and we would go with the master to the mastering house. But this machine is cool because it also has vari-speed. It has different speeds. It's cool. You can also use it as an echo effect. You know, the tape slap thing. That's fun to play with. It sounds different than some plugins. So the Studer, the small Studer, the Revox machines, it's good. But tape machines are getting really cheaper these days. You can get like this, the 24 track, the Studer you can get like for not as much money as it was back in the day. But tape is expensive a little bit because they didn't make it anymore, and then they built a new factory to make tape again, and this is it's much more expensive than when you record to hard drive in comparison. Yeah.
Do you have any of your drum kits available as sample CDs maybe? Or as contact instruments or something like that?
No.
Any plans?
People are asking, but we never decided to do it. But
why? Is that the secret that you and the time that you invested? That you say, oh no, we need to keep them for ourselves.
We're still playing around with them. We love them.
Okay, so we'll just listen to some more music. Maybe you can explain a little bit the setup of Pro Tools as well. Maybe not everyone is familiar with that.
The setup of Pro Tools, okay.
Just a little bit.
When Pro Tools started, it was a recording software. Really, it wasn't any MIDI sequencing. It wasn't really effects. It put the focus on recording and some EQs and stuff. And it's built like a traditional mixer. You have the input, you have inserts, and you have master faders and pen pods, mutes and solo buttons. And the cool thing about it is that it has very low latency. So the other day or it was some years ago, I had to record with another program, and it wasn't used that the singer would hear the playback or himself, even with the delay. It's not happening with Pro Tools. You record and you hear yourself at the same moment. That's a big pro. Yeah. And it's very stable from the beginning on. Yeah, but nowadays they also over the years they included the MIDI functions, and the Logic and Pro Tools getting closer to each other.
But Pro Tools is the main program that you use for recording and mix down.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, we could also talk. When we started to make music, we also only used samples. We came from hip hop, bought records, found the right spots where we could sample, checked out the left or the right side of the records, where maybe there's only the drums on the right side and the vocals on the left or whatever. But for this album, we've decided to do our own samples, our own style, our own soundscape.
Is it also because you were afraid of that samples get noticed by other people, or is that time long gone?
We always try to really use samples in a more abstract way. Of course, there are some samples. I mean, we have songs where we had like 60 or 70 samples, and there might be the chance that you recognize one, but mostly it was more of about an abstract use. But still, there is a restriction when you use for the right drum sounds, whatever, or you have the low end sound of the record player still in the samples if you really want to push some bass into it. And I think that it was maybe a progression that came also by Axel was recording artists like Georg Levine in the late 90s, and we made the production for Clara Hill album and for Thief, and there was more and more a development away from sampling, just using the instruments. And we always said we don't go on stage in the 90s and the early 2000s. Yeah, in a way it helped when we had the feeling, yeah, it's possible to play the songs with a live band, but afterwards we decided also to play songs that were obviously electronic. So yeah, I mean, you can play everything with a band. You just, if the song is good and you have the right material to play, you can do like cover versions of or like a different interpretation on stage, like you have it on record.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bring it on.
Yeah. Yeah, we did a song called I Can See with Ben Westbeach, and we tried to find our own way.
Silently suffering, hidden by an incidental smile, holding on for something else to come along and make my life worthwhile. Till it comes, I'm gonna be okay, slowly waiting for the end of days. Every night I'm gonna be alright. Demons come and take care of my pride.
Again, the song is all live recorded, and the drums are programmed. I can play you the drums in the very raw way. So. Like the kick drum we had, then it's not mixed yet. But we wanted to have them sound more aggressive, and it's nice how it sounds, and the groove is fine, but we really wanted to crank them up a little bit, a little more. Yeah, we run them through this compressor here. It's a Telectronics LA2A. It's a tube compressor. It just distorts a little bit and compresses nicely and brings out all the room sound and stuff. I can show you how it sounds in the mix. It really distorts the tom and it brings everything together. Then we have some congas. Okay, it makes it more brutal. Okay. The other cool thing about this song is the claps Stefan and I did. We recorded the claps in our stairwell in our studio, making more reverby and smashy sounding. I can play you the claps. Huh? So this is us, two guys, standing in the stairs and recording claps, actually. And in addition to these claps, we have claps recorded in front of the bathroom, which have more attack than the other tabs. And in the combination, it really adds this sound to the original drums. What we always do is reamping. Reamping is when we recorded stuff, like with these vibes here. This is the guy playing the vibes for the song. And it's nice, has a nice quality, it has some nice spectrum to it. Recorded it with one mic, but for the song, of course, we couldn't just let it like it is. I was talking about reamping. We would send these vibes through a speaker, through a cabinet, through an amp, and also use the reverb of the spring reverb. And in the end, it sounds like. So it's more distant. It has some distortion to it, some crunch, I would say. It was just perfect for this kind of music. So everything goes really through the stairs. We would put a speaker here into the stairs, send the recorded stuff out, and put a mic here and record it. We would like EQ the stuff like we wanted to have it. I can play you some.
So you don't really need a big expensive studio, you can just use your staircase.
You can use the staircase. A mic and a speaker, that's it. To add some speciality to it. Or some rooms that no one else has.
Any difficulty with playing with other musicians? I think you told me an interesting story about working with a string orchestra once.
That was for this record we did called Belle Fou, and
there was a musical that was
where?
Here in Berlin.
Right, we did the music for it. It was cool because it was the first time that Stefan also we had the chance to write for like an orchestra, like 12-piece string orchestra. It was very, very big for us this time, and we developed some grooves that we thought they're really easy to play. It was like dit 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 dit. It's easy, right?
Just that strings.
Repeat.
Dit,
okay.
dit, something like that.
Yeah, right. And also before we went to this big studio and spent lots of money and hired this orchestra, we asked them, can you play all that stuff? And
how big was the orchestra?
It was 12 people, but it was enough for us at this time. We only worked with one at one time. And they said, yeah, it's easy, it's no problem, let's do it, and let's go there, and we don't have to rehearse and everything. But then we started the first song of like 8 songs we wanted to record on one day, and it was this dit, 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 very white stuff. They just couldn't play it. One guy was too early, the other guys were too late. Mostly they all were too early, right? And this was really distracting. And also we went to this big studio. It was a big room, like 400 square meter room. And for this kind of music, the room sound was just too big. So it's very important in which kind of room you record your stuff. Mm-hmm. Because our stuff was like supposed to sound more like a disco, like not orchestral stuff. So when we went home with our hard drive and thousands of tracks, we spent like a month cutting all the strings to the right place, taking the reverb off. So we did level automation. It was crazy. This was hard, but in the end it was cool. But I still hear all the cuts in this music. I can't really listen to it with joy.
When you record musicians and you have them coming in the studio, I mean, renting a studio is really expensive. And what's your backup plan? Is there something that you say, okay, when this fails or a piece of equipment doesn't work the way you want it to work, you always have an emergency plan? Or
yeah, sure.
What's that?
You can't let them guess that there's nothing, that it's not working. You're as an engineer, you are the person who has to keep them calm and give them the feel everything is in control. so they can concentrate on doing a good performance, which you want to capture. If something happens, you always will find a way to excuse or to say, okay, let's. But you have to have them from the first time when they come into the room. They have to have the feeling, or you also have to prepare everything. You have to check all the cables. You have to check if everything works before they come in. So you have to be the day before or hours before. You have to be there, set everything up, check everything. It's better for you and for them. And if something happens, they will understand it because everything works so well for the rest of the time. But you have to be really calm. You have to let them do their thing, or you also have to guide them. Because sometimes they get nervous when they're in the studio, they spend money, they think, should we do it like this? Should we do it? Yeah, let's try it. It's cool. It's cool like you did it. Really? Yeah.
Well, let's do it again.
Yeah. Behind the glass. That was nice, but do another one. No, but the engine is really important.
Maybe we can ask Paul. He was one of the artists that you recorded, right?
The last,
so
actually, I don't know if I can say this, but the last song we recorded with Paul was "I Human," and this was also he just stepped into the booth. We had everything prepared, the vocals and the melodies and stuff, and we just recorded it. So, but we thought it was supposed to be a sketch vocal, right? Just before going to the other studio, and I saw a video. Olli from Sonar Kollektiv took. And I thought Paul wasn't really singing into the mic. He was singing like this because he didn't know the lyrics at this time, because it was all written just in the moment. I thought, okay, the vocals sound a little bit funny, but we're going to record them again later, everything cool and well. And then we came into the studio and wanted to recreate those vocals and the feelings, and we just couldn't do it. So we just used the scratch vocals.
Oh.
Yeah, I did. I did. I made them work. Because they had all the emotions, they had the right feeling, and they were just like this.
So sometimes it's just the spontaneity of the first take that you think has the rawness and the elements, or
for me personally, I think it's like the first two takes. That's where all the magic is, and then you're just trying to second guess yourself a lot, you know. After that. Yeah.
But you also had one of those moments where you're basically going in the studio and then they say, oh, can you make up something for this part? And then you're sitting down and you have to come up with some lyrics.
Yeah, but you know, after a while, you just kind of learn how to think on your feet. Mm-hmm. You know, experience teaches you how to think on your feet.
Okay. But I think everyone from seeing the tracks now is quite eager to maybe get their hands on, and now you've seen actually how long it takes for them to record everything, program everything, mix everything down. And with your latest track that you were just talking about, I Human. Actually, I think this is very special because I think everyone wants to get their hands on parts of a Jazzanova track. And Axel and Stefan actually agreed to give you all the parts for the tune I Human, so you can all do your own remix of it. So you can play around with all the parts, you can play with the vocals by Paul Randolph, you can download them all. Do whatever you like with it.
The scratch vocals.
Right. And you only have to promise us that you will deliver the result. So you have to submit your version. You have about 6 weeks to do it. Jazzanova will decide which remix they like best, and then we'll give away 5 goodie bags containing parts or items by Adidas. We'll have some headphones from Sennheiser for you, some Jägermeister as well. And we'll see. So you can actually, we uploaded them today, so you can just go to our SoundCloud page and download all the parts, and then let us know what you came up with, and then maybe even the best one will get a proper release. We'll see.
Yeah, and I
think that deserves a round of applause to the guys, doesn't it?
I was going to say, I Human is a special song in the way we did it, right? We just programmed it on the computer and did the sketch, and then went into the studio and recorded with the whole band, recorded the song at one time. We never did it before, and that was cool. Thanks, guys.
We live a life of bits and bytes. Where we unite is in the cyber life. Use stumps to text and speak outright. I'm sitting next to you. Let's have a conversation. Yeah, yeah, I know, okay. This is a brand new day. We share a common past. The world is moving faster. I miss the personal touch without abbreviations. I dedicate the song to all the human nation. I and I, you and I. Remember when we took the time? We made a plan to break away, to get together and celebrate, celebrate. I'd rather look into your eyes and feel a connection. Share the rhythm and the rhyme and watch your expression. I'd rather look into your eyes and see my reflection. Share the rhythm and the rhyme and make an impression. And make an impression. ICS HDD URL MAC AGP NAT. If you're confused, read about it on my PLOG. Yeah, yeah, I know, okay. This is a brand new day. We share a common past. The world is moving faster. I miss the personal touch without abbreviations. I dedicate the song to all the human nation. I and I, you and I. Remember when we took the time? We made a plan to break away, to get together and celebrate, celebrate. I'd rather look into your eyes and feel a connection. Share the rhythm and the rhyme and watch your expression. I'd rather look into your eyes and see my reflection. Share the rhythm and the rhyme and make an impression. And make an impression.
I think you actually have to give it up one more time for this tune. And maybe one or two of you already got inspired from listening to it and to work with the parts. So Axel just told me this was all recorded live in one take. No, well, the band was just playing it, right? Yep.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's special.
What kind of microphones did you use for recording Paul? Or what do you prefer to work with normally and then especially with his voice and for most of this production?
Yeah. When we recorded Paul for our latest album, of all the things, I've chosen different mics for different songs, even with Paul's same voice, obviously. For Lucky Girl, I thought it's cool to take a mic that's not too bright and has more low mid-range, more body to it, without being too focused on the shiny things. So I used an U67, Neumann U67, and then we did this ballad, Dial Cliche. I used the U47, which is more shiny, and this was nice. And in general, yeah, you really have to, for vocals, bring in the singer, check out some mics. But usually the U67 is you can record everything with it, I guess. With a nice mic free. Huh? Yeah, it's cool. It's cool for guitar cabinets. It's cool for drums. It's really, it's a really good mic. You have the pad and you can really work with it. Different characteristics, and it's cool. I love it. You're welcome.
That's something from the beginning, as Paul was saying, about doing some singing exercises. I'm just curious, and I think it's very useful. Which of those exercises you made from the cassette that you enjoy more, that you had keep in, like, to help you to improve your sing?
Actually, I stopped doing those.
Wow.
No, the ones from that particular. I mean, you know,
doing
there's so
different
many
exercise
different.
now.
Well, yeah. Well, there's so many different schools of thought. You know, it's kind of like you have to find the stuff that works for you. It's much like working out. Some people like to use, you know, work out in different ways. Some people prefer not to use weights. Some people rather use bands. I mean, it's just really, it's a real personal thing. And then I think you get to a point where, I mean, just warming up, just having warm-up exercises is one thing, and it's extremely important that you warm up. Don't sing without warming up. Just don't. And especially when you're going into the studio, because tape does not lie. And if you're tired, you're going to hear it. I mean, when we were recording the Funk House, I mean, it was a very long 3 days, and there were points where I could tell that my voice was getting tired. So, I mean, there's just that whole, you know, multiple takes will do that to you, just being tired physically. But as far as exercises are concerned, I mean, just start with, I mean, after the break, I'd be more than happy to show you some things. But one person that has a lot of good stuff out right now his name is Eric Arsenal, and he has free things on YouTube, and it's a really great place to start. It's real good basic vocal warm-ups and things that you can use. Yeah, it's really cool.
Thank you, that's very interesting. I just asked that because I'm not a singer, but I would say to people about while producing music, like, everyone can sing if you really know how to put it out. So I thought that was a valuable thing. Thank you very much.
Sure.
If this is too off topic, please say so. We've been talking so much about the production, and it's a great insight, but how much time goes into songwriting and arranging? Because that's really, I mean, I hear great songwriting and great arranging.
Or maybe I would not say there's a certain result for every song. It's maybe different. Sometimes you start with a rhythm, sometimes you start with a bass or with a melody or something. It's actually really different. We have songs that maybe took 1 day, and we have songs that took months, not every day to work on, but continuously on different days. I would say maybe it's important to find the point where you can leave something and say it's okay, but it's also important for me personally to develop on. It's not just like, I'm ready, I did it, just not just being efficient, but also, yeah, bring into the music what you really want to, like really the emotions. And yeah, that's the first step, of course, because I'm only coming from the instrumental side, putting harmonies and melody parts into it. And when it comes to work together with a vocalist, it's really important, like Paul mentioned before, that when the vocalist hears our music, that he really knows what we want. It's not just, we don't want to leave it too open. We really want to bring the vocalist, like we made a track with Jose James, A Little Bird, which I have the feeling he would never write a song like this on his album, but he wrote it because we gave him the song, we wanted it in that direction. So we really want to meet somewhere in the middle, because a lot of producers, they're just doing some beats and some harmonies and let the singer do, but it's really good. Paul also knows what we really talk about it, and we also, it might also happen that we reject an idea. So it's not like we're always saying, ah, nice, the singer, it's cool, it's great. We're also really critic about and talk about the lyrics and everything, because I think that's a really important step if you want to do a whole album that has a cohesive thing, even if there are different styles and different singers. That's at least the most important thing about it.
The song as well.
About the single song, and all together, of course, then makes sense if you have this things in mind. Yeah.
Thanks.
Do you usually start with a melody and shape vocals to that, or do you start with vocals and then kind of work out a melody that goes along with that? If you get away.
It's about my reaction. Music is about reaction, right? So you react to what you hear, and you know if you like it pretty much within the first couple of seconds, right? You have a feeling. So for me, if I hear something I like, I immediately grab a little recorder or my phone or wherever I happen to be if I'm not at home, and I just react to it. And then I do that a couple of times, and then I sit back and I take the things that I liked that I did, and it's usually a lot of gibberish, and occasionally words will come out or phrases will come out, and it's really kind of just truly reacting to it, being in the moment and not being in my head about it, being really free and just playing, you know, and that's where it begins for me. And then I'll take that stuff and I'll go back and then I'll build a song around that.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Which difference do you find between analog equipment for mastering like compressor and reverb and their equivalents in plugins for Pro Tools? And the second one is if you have special equipment to record the voice, something which gives you a difference. I don't mean a microphone, I mean a compressor with reverb or with a special delay, maybe analogic equipment which gives you a voice not so cold.
It really depends on the singer you got, right? If the singer is very bright or nasal sounding, you pick a mic that's more, maybe take a ribbon mic that's more low frequency enhanced, or just pick the mic that helps the singer stand out best. Also, it depends how the arrangement or the whole song is, right? You can have the singer a much more powerful, or you can have much more low end in a ballad if there's not too many instruments going on, just piano, double bass and drums maybe. And I really try to play around with a combination of which mic I choose, then with the mic technique, right? If you go here, then you have lots more bass than if you go like this. And the preamps also play a big role in if it's round or if it's more straight, if it's fluffy. I don't usually record with a compressor in, but sometimes I do. If I want to have a clear vocal, then it's good if you take, speaking of hardware, you take the CL1B, the tube take compressor. It's really like, it's clear, very clear, but it has soul. If you want to help, I also, with Paul's vocal, sometimes if he goes to the higher register and he pushes really hard, it gets a bit too aggressive for me sometimes. Then in these parts, I switch to this compressor, the star gate, the star level, which is this guy. He is really like, he adds some roundness to it. I use this for Paul, or also a combination, two compressors, like a liquid, like a clear one and this, and then switch between the phrases.
Is it retro?
Yeah. It's a nice compressor, really. It was built for radio stations in the 50s. And speaking of hardware and software, it's a mixing thing, right? When we record, I try to put as much as of the desired sound onto tape, so going through different pieces of gear, which is obviously all hardware. And when it comes to the mixing stage, I really use both. I think some equalizers in the digital domain just give you stuff that you can't really do with a pull-take equalizer. You can really search, you can really go deep, and with small band you can take stuff out. I use this a lot. Also, automation is great. Yeah, but we use a hybrid system. We mix outside the box, so we send every track to the Neumann board and use some hardware to give it some flavor. Or sometimes it's also better when you just have two knobs. Like here on this compressor, you don't have too many choices, right? You have input, you have output, and then you have to hear how it sounds. You have these big knobs. And in the digital domain, sometimes also with equalizers, you have all these graphics going on. And you think, you look at the graphic, you turn the mouse, and you think, okay, 1.73 kilohertz or 1.6 kilohertz. And it's sometimes too many options. And it's cool if you just have these knobs, have 5 options. This sounds good, this sounds also good, let's take this, cool. And go on. Don't think about it too much, just go by feel. And this is one big strength of hardware. Just grabbing it, turning it, and just instantly hear what's going on, and not watching it too much. Yeah.
Yeah, all your music is feel amazing, and we can see that you work really hard, weeks, months, I don't know, years. You really hard work, but you know, nowadays, how do you sell your music, or how do you get the money back? Because you see that you're an analog lover, and all the equipment is so expensive. So, how is the way that you can get money back nowadays?
Really important is we are 5 Jazzanova guys, and we really working into different directions. We have a label to release our own stuff, so we are classically independent. Even if we release on another label, we can always come back to our own. We have 3 DJs that play. We have a live band. So I would say it's just a sum of all parts. Of course, you can't rely on one single one, and you can especially not rely on selling music. And you cannot plan something like making a hit or something. Just believe in what you're doing yourself. And of course, you always try to do something special for yourself. So I have a feeling that people who listen to it can recognize it and give it back to you. But obviously that doesn't give any information about selling. So, I mean, if the music is good, it will always find some fans. And if you have a good network and put all the parts of income together, then it should be relatively safe at the moment. But you never know in music business at the moment. So, whatever the future will bring.
But also because you mentioned that the hardware is so expensive, you can also buy software and work with plugins, right? And find stuff out and play around with it. And then when you're really into it, you don't buy this whole thing at one time. You start collecting things, you find stuff cheap on eBay, play around with it. Maybe at the first time don't get why people say it's good. But you play around with it, collect some more stuff, and then if you're really into it, you can't stand it. You just have to do it. But you can start with Logic or with Ableton or whatever, buy a microphone and a preamp and start playing around and experiment. You can put stuff in the speaker and put it in the stairs and just experiment. Just do it what you want to do. Don't be shy because you don't have that 4,000 euro compressor or whatever. It's not necessary.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I recently saw that you started a crowdfunding project for a film, and I just wanted to ask you what inspired you to do this, and if you believe that crowdfunding is like a source of financing creative projects in the future.
Well, it's not our project. We don't make the film. It's some film guys that make videos, and they had the idea to film us over a long time. So actually, I don't want to really say so much about it. I really love the fact that they think it's cool to make a movie about us, and I really love the idea that they were with us over 3 or 4 years now. So it's a lot of footage they have filmed. But regarding the crowdfunding thing, it's definitely expensive for them to travel along with us. You know, when we have a flight to, I don't know, to Japan or to South Africa, they always have to buy the tickets to fly along. They really need some funds to do this movie, to finalize it. So I think the idea is basically great, because it's basically for our fans, the film. So we have to ask for this crowdfunding project. But you know, on the other hand, it's not our film. we are not the filming guys. We are filmed in a way. So.
But how can people find out about it? Where can they actually, if there are people who want to donate money to the film?
Incubato is the name of the site, and but we have it's on our webpage.
Okay.
On directly on, you can see it.
Perfect.
I mean, there's this film about the Bar 25, right? Bar 25, we say. And they also did it with Incubato, and it worked out fine for them. And maybe it's a new way to finance creativity. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, but we'll focus on music first, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I think they deserve an applause for all that inside information. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot.